The Phillies fail to sweep the Red Sox, but still take 2 out of 3 after a gut-wrenching loss in Game 3 of the series. I'm Coy Camiscioli from Philly Sports, talking to break down the series for you. But I have to tell you, I was really happy with this series, and even though the Phillies lost in kind of ugly fashion in Game 3, the good thing is that the bats were actually hitting. It wasn't one of those games where we had a great start from our starting pitcher, and then we just could not hit a baseball to save our life. We actually hit in this game. Um, and I think that is definitely a step in the right direction for this lineup. For me, again, it was a tough loss all around. It stunk. Pitching, we'll get to all that. But if the bats in the middle of the order can hit, you have to remember Jesus Luzardo is this team's fourth best starter. And that's if Aaron Nola doesn't come back and isn't really good. He would still be our fourth best starter. So if the bats can hit like this, and we have Wheeler, Ranger, Sanchez on the mound, I like our odds in the postseason. So this is not the end all be all, dropping the series finale in Game 3, because again, I was pretty satisfied with how this series went against the Red Sox, who are a pretty solid team. So the Phillies, they lose 9 to 8 and 11 innings in Game 3, and I'll talk about each game, some of the big things on my notes from each game. So we'll talk about Game 3 first. And Phillies get off to a hot start. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper have just been absolutely insane. Schwarber hits a two-run homer in the first, and Bryce Harper follows that right up with a homer of his own, which is his 351st or 350th home run of his career. And then Nick Castellanos hit a home run in the third to make it 4-0, and then Stott got in on the fun to make it 5-0 in the fourth, to make it 5-0 Phillies off of all home runs. But then Jesus Luzardo had a blow-up inning. It was ugly. 4 walks, and he actually walked a couple batters in to score a couple runs. And then a Romy Gonzalez grand slam, who was 0 for 5, 0 for 20 his last 20 at bats, hits the grand slam off Luzardo for the Red Sox to take a 6-5 lead. And now we've seen some film of side by side of manager Alex Cora and the Red Sox relaying signs from the dugout to first base, which is a problem because that means Luzardo's obviously tipping his pitches, and that's an issue. If you haven't seen that, go search that up on Twitter. That's something that's going to need to be fixed. Obviously, you can have a guy giving away his pitches down the stretch late in the year. So that's unfortunate. Obviously, Luzardo didn't have it. Command-wise, especially, he only gave up 3 hits. Obviously, the 6 runs, but um, it's a problem. I actually only gave it 2 hits, not even 3. My bad. So only 2 hits, but the 5 walks on the 6 runs. That's just a killer. So maybe he was trying to fix something with his mechanics, and then something just became obvious and clear for the Red Sox where they could relay their signs. I don't know, but obviously they're going to have to figure that out. It looked like Cora was relaying to the first base coach, and then Gonzalez was able to get a read on what was coming. So, anyways, 6-5 Red Sox from there. And then JT Realmuto, he did tie in the 8th off the home run off Aroldis Chapman. So a lot of home runs in this game for the Phillies. And then extra innings roll around. Both teams traded a run in the 10th thanks to the ghost runner. But in the 11th, Seth Johnson gave up a 2-run homer to Carlos Narvaez in the 11th to take a 2-run lead for the Red Sox. So just it's a bad loss. You're able to drive in a run, but it didn't matter, thanks to the ghost runner, really. So again, I was not this loss is not the end of the world for the Phillies. The bats finally hit. That is a good thing. We didn't get shut down. We have to remember this is our 4th best pitcher thrown in this game, and it just a command issue is what it was. He goes 5 innings, 6 runs, as I said, just 2 hits, 5 walks, 7 strikeouts. The walks killed him. But the bullpen was not even that bad either. 6 innings, a 3-run ball, 3 hits, and the ghost runner played a serious role in driving in those 3 runs too. So just a bad start from Luzardo. But you got to take the positives out of this, which is the bullpen was solid and the bats were hitting. And that's what we need from this team right now. So, again, not the end of the world. Talk about Game 2 and Games 1 briefly, or Games 2 and 1 briefly. Game 2, Phillies won 4-1. Castellanos had singled a run in the first and another catches interference, which we'll get to that in a second from Game 1. Brought another run in. And then Schwarber and Kepler both hit solo homers in the second to take a 4-0 lead, and that's all the Phillies needed. Really, Schwarber again, another home run. Rob Refsnyder homered in the 4th for the Sox, and that was all the scoring for this game. Christopher Sanchez, complete game gem. 9 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run, 12 strikeouts. pure domination, proving why he should have been in the All-Star game. Um, Phillies kind of had trouble hitting this game. Again, past the second inning, there was nothing going offensively, but not the end of the world. Our starting pitcher Christopher Sanchez did his job, and the Phillies did a good job of knocking the Red Sox starter out. But still hoping for those bats to heat up after this game is what was in my notes. And again, they did heat up in Game 3. Game 1, Phillies won 3-2 off a walk-off catcher's interference, which is unbelievable. The first one since 1971. It was a crazy thing to watch, but you'll take any win that you can get it. And it was the first one since 1971. Jarren Duran for the Sox, he led off the game with the homer, which is kind of funny because obviously he's been one of the guys in rumors for the Phillies. I wouldn't mind Jarren Duran. Again, the outfield has been pretty bad for the Phillies this year, even though Castellanos has been kind of hitting recently. So the Phillies, they were able to take a lead in the fourth off a couple RBI singles from Castellanos and Realmuto, and Trevor Story tied in the sixth with an RBI single of his own. Max Laser escaped the 10th inning without giving up a run, even with the ghost runner. So, again, the Phillies bullpen was kind of good this series. And then Wheeler, 6 innings pitched, 2 runs, 7 hits, 10 strikeouts. So, a pretty good start from Zach Wheeler there. Even with the 7 hits, was able to minimize damage in those 6 innings. And 4 shutout innings from the bullpen. Bryce Harper, he goes 2 for 4. So, just a good game for the Phillies in Game 1, even though it was kind of a low-scoring game. And the catcher's interference for the win. But, again, as I said, you'll take them any way you can get them. So, the Phillies, they do take 2 out of 3 in this series. Very promising series from my side if the bats can hit like they did in Game 3. And, again, Red Sox are a solid team. So, this is not the end of the world right now, losing Game 3 of this series. And both Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, I had to say, have been scorching hot. And it's kind of funny because a couple weeks ago, I called Bryce out. Well, not really called him out, but just saying, he kind of needs to be better. I know he was rehabbing from his injuries, coming back and getting back into the groove of things, but he was just having an underwhelming season in general, and he has been lights out recently, along with Kyle Schwarber, which is just insane. Another reason why we need to extend Kyle Schwarber. So, the loss still sucks, but that's all I really got for this one. The Phillies, if the bats can hit like they did in Game 3, good things are coming in the upcoming series ahead of the trade deadline. And speaking of the trade deadline, as news comes out or if the Phillies start to make any moves, I'll break it down on the podcast for you guys. And Dave Dombrowski has come out saying that he's going to be aggressive. I feel like this happens every year, though, so we'll see what actually ends up happening. The Phillies, they're off today, and they'll head up to New York to face the Yankees in a 3-game set. Your probable starters, Game 1, Taijuan Walker versus Will Warren. Game 2, Ranger Suarez versus Marcus Stroman. And Game 3, Zach Wheeler versus Carlos Rodon. And then after that, the Phillies will close out the road trip in Chicago against the White Sox. So that's going to do it for this one. I'll do a brief standings check for the National League. The Mets are ahead of the Phillies currently, a half game up. And so we'll see what happens moving forward. It was a good series for the Phillies, just the Mets have been playing some good baseball recently. 6-4 in their last 10. Phillies are 5-5. We'll see what happens coming up. But that's going to do it. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back on Sunday to recap the Yankees series.